the World Agri-Tech Summit in San Francisco, where I'm joined by the CEO of Vivagran, which has crossed wild barley with durum wheat and come up with an intriguing new crop.
Tritordeum is a novel cereal crop that was developed in Spain in the 1980s. It started as an academic project with the idea to cross wheats and barleys to combine the best of both worlds, so the robustness of barley and the baking quality of wheat. So Tritordeum is essentially resembling wheats and barleys. So it's a crop that can be used in those respective applications of baking, but also malting for feed applications. So we have focused in the early years more on the baking aspect, developing lines that would be good in protein quality, would be nicely bakeable to make bread. But we have now also worked recently on the malting aspect of Tritordeum, so we can really address a wide range of applications, going from food but also to feed applications. What stands out in the baking is that Tritordeum, first of all, contains a high level of protein, a high level of fiber as well, so nutritionally it's superior to wheat. Also it has a very nice golden yellow color brought by the lutein, which is a natural yellow pigment found in the grain, and it has a very nice mild but sweet taste that is really appealing to consumers. Also, if we look into the gluten, Tritordeum contains less of the indigestible proteins from gluten. They are called omega gliadins. We have 50% reduction of those proteins, which allows people or consumers with gluten-related intolerance to be able to tolerate foods made with Tritordeum when they could not eat, for instance, wheat or spelt-based products.
Okay. When it comes to the brewing and distilling side of things, I think you've mentioned before it's got better enzymatic activity than malting barley. Can you elaborate a bit on that?
Yeah, so this is actually very exciting for us, something we have discovered through a joint partnership with a large malting house company called Malt. Is that Tritordeum has a very high enzymatic activity. So in the brewing world, we are looking at two types of enzymes that are very important, the alpha amylases and beta amylases. Happens that Tritordeum is very high on those amylases, so it's very good to convert starch into sugars, so it helps into the fermentation process and helps into the brewing process itself. But also for distillers, which are basically producers of alcohol, as well, sugar conversion is very important, so they are looking for what they call high DP malts, which are malts with a very high sugar conversion ratio. And Tritordeum is able to perform really well, actually better than most of the varieties of malting barleys today in the market. So we are exploring malting for brewing, but also for distilling.
I think you've mentioned before that it's also low in lipoxygenase, which is this enzyme that kind of shortens the shelf life of beer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So lipoxygenase, it's an enzyme that will affect the shelf life of the beer. So there are now varieties of barleys developed by breeders which are low on lipoxygenase, so low LOX varieties.
Yeah.
And we have discovered as well through our partnership with Malt that all the varieties of Tritordeum we have in our hands today are low LOX varieties. So offering as well an opportunity for brewers to use our grain to substitute barley for enhanced shelf life in their beer.
What about the agronomy side of things? What's it like to actually grow this crop?
Most crops are affected by diseases like rust, septoria, fusarium, and Tritordeum holds genetics from the wild barley that makes it very resistant to those diseases. And that's something we see everywhere we produce Tritordeum. So for the farmer, what does it mean? It means he can produce Tritordeum using less fungicides in its production, so it's more sustainable. Also, another very interesting trait of Tritordeum in farming is the protein content of the grain. So Tritordeum builds a lot of protein in the grain without having to apply too much fertilizers. So also an opportunity to reduce on the fertilizer use during the farming and to still get enough protein to make it bakeable, for instance. Tritordeum, the whole breeding program was initiated in Cordoba, Spain, so in the south of Spain, where drought and heat are major problems, let's say. So Tritordeum was really bred in marginal lands where those problems appear. So we see that Tritordeum can adapt in regions that are affected by climate change, affected by drought, by heat, and this is actually today more than 50% of farmable lands globally that are affected by climate change. So a big opportunity.
So So far, it sounds almost too good to be true. What are some of the downsides? I mean, what about the yields, for example?
So of course, there's always downsides. The yield is one of them. So Tritordeum has 50 years of breeding behind. If you compare it to wheat that has hundreds of years, we are still behind on the yield potential of the crop. So this is something that we are working on. We have already developed new varieties that will come in the market in the coming years that are already yielding 20 to 30% higher than our commercial varieties. So this is work in progress, and we truly believe that with the modern breeding techniques that are available today, we can close the yield gap and hopefully reach the same yields as we would get with wheat and barleys, but with the added nutrition and the added traits that we discussed.
So we're here today in San Francisco. What are your plans for the US market?
So yeah, this is the first time we land in the US actually to present our two technologies. So we have initiated a few activities with academic partners to test our varieties of Tritordeum and DDR in different environments, different climates. But we are here also to look for commercial partners. So along the value chain, it could be breeding companies, it could be cooperatives, farmers, it could be grain processors like millers and maltsters. So to present our new grains as alternative to existing wheats and barleys that are consumed here in the US.